Well, I believe I'm gonna have to release some content to push back on a good friend of the channel. Now, I don't know how some of my viewers out there might view what being a good friend is, but in my book, if you've got someone that you respect and you respect them as a friend, when you see that they might be going through a situation where there's a lot of factors that are weighing on their mind, and they might be more likely to make some decisions that they otherwise, with a good, clear mind, wouldn't necessarily make. And you see that going on, to me, it's not the right thing to do to stand idly by and say nothing. And that's why I'm going to make this video. Now, I'm not going to name names because I don't want to tear this individual down. But if you see the video, I think you're going to know who I'm talking about. Okay? And just want to say, if you know who I'm talking about and you watch this video, I respect this individual. I hope he keeps producing great content. Certainly. But there was a video released, and it's kind of a defense given about why Tulsi Gabbard endorsed Joe Biden. Now, just saying this and getting this out front, honestly, with the positions people like myself have taken, and I still say this from what I gathered and when I watched the video, nothing came across to reverse my decision that it was the right move to make. One, you're not running for a re-election. So this idea you've got to work within the Democratic Party to hang on to what you already got, why aren't you running for re-election? Some say it's for a Senate campaign. Okay, but again, yeah, you might win the Senate. And so again, it comes down to me, are you trying to stand on your morals and your convictions, or are you trying to further your political agenda and run for political offices? Because to me, while you might win the support of the Democratic Party, you're certainly going to lose a chunk of support from that grassroots movement that says, I'm tired of people kissing establishment, but even if it's to win an election, I'm just tired of it because the establishment screws me over all the time. So I'm sick and tired of voting for people who are going to bend over for me. I want the fighter. Where do you think a lot of Tulsi supporters came from after Bernie showed his colors in 2016? That's where she got a lot of her base from. Of course, you still got a lot of folks out there who champion Tulsi's defense in this, and they say, well, look, you got to understand, she's playing the long game. No, what I understand is the long game is not working inside the Democratic Party. I've said this once, I'll say it again. The Democratic Party is a sewer treatment facility. And you know what it smells like? Fetid shit. So going inside that sewer facility and spraying Febreze around, you're spraying air freshener on shit. That doesn't change it from being shit, people. The Democratic Party is still a lot of big pile of shit. And you can spray all the air freshener on it you want to. It's still, crap. It's still shit. It's still turds. You didn't change anything with that. So, this spraying of air freshener, this idea that we're going to overtake the Democrat Party with some fighters, and maybe we need to work alongside them so that we actually get a position. Understand this, guys. Aloha is not currency. And these people, the establishment Democrats, don't give a damn about your good faith and how nice you are. If you ain't got the money, honey, we ain't got the time, to reference a good Willie Nelson lyric, okay? If you got the money, honey, I got the time. Well, guess what? Aloha ain't bringing the money to the table. So the Democratic Party and Joe Biden are going to listen to the money. I don't care even if he nominated Tulsi Gabbard, playing advocate, to be his VP. If he did that, you might say, well, maybe he wants your positions. No. He's just going to try to win your vote, son. That's it. He ain't going to do that shit. He ain't going to institute her policy, and the only way you stand a chance of her policies being instituted was if that old sumbitch croaks. That's the only way you're going to get Tulsi Gabbard agendas through. She could be the VP. If that old rotten bastard lives 4 to 8 years, you won't see her agendas come through because the donors don't want it. Understand it. That goes for Tulsi, that goes for Bernie, that goes for Nina Turner. He could pick any of them. You won't see the agendas go through because the donors don't want it. So let's just put that to bed right now. Money talks, bullshit walks. They're gonna go for what the money wants. They've been going for what the money wants. Hell, they could even run on these platforms and then backpedal on them after election because it's what the money wanted. You need an example of that? Look at 8 years of Barack Obama. And why don't you tell me how much stuff that man ran on and then did after he got elected? I'll wait. You can tweet it out too. So that being said, the other thing that I want to kind of press on is that Joe Biden doesn't use inflammatory language like Donald Trump does. No, his language might not be as frequently inflammatory, but it is, without a doubt, just as inflammatory. You've got, what did he say on the Breakfast Club? You ain't black if you don't vote for me. If you're confused whether to vote for me or Trump, then you ain't black. Wow. Okay. Sure, that's not inflammatory at all. How about his 7-Eleven comment? That's not inflammatory towards Indian or Pakistani or any kind of Middle Eastern people at all now, is it? Because when he's basically saying you can't walk into a 7-Eleven without seeing someone from the Middle East. No, that's not offensive one bit. Here's the best one, and I'm no Mitt Romney fan, nor am I a Paul Ryan fan, but how about when he was running for re-election as Obama's VP, and he said to a group of black voters, they're going to put y'all back in chains. Really? And for people that don't remember, let's just take a look at that real quick, shall we?
Look at what they value and look at their budget and what they're proposing. Romney wants to he said in the first 100 days, he's going to let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
There you go. Tell me that isn't inflammatory. Again, no Mitt Romney or Paul Ryan fan here. But they're going to put y'all back in chains. So, yeah, Mitt Romney might have been a egotistical piece of work who was certainly out for the rich. But he's going to put people back in chains. Well, let's see. First of all, who else could he have been talking to about the whole chains comment? Who were brought to this country in chains? Who spent how many years in chains? So he's basically referring to people of color. We're going to take you back to slaves days. Mitt Romney might be a lot of things, but I don't believe he would try to reenact slavery. That's quite a fucking stretch, don't you think? So, that should be very inflammatory. But let's be clear. If these Joe Biden comments aren't as inflammatory as a lot of Trump comments, there's a good reason for that. Because you don't hear about them from the mainstream media the way they will harp up and down 24/7 about a Donald Trump, fuck up that he makes a tweet about, or a Donald Trump, diarrhea of the mouth with constipation of the brain. See, let's understand this, people. Both of these old farts have diarrhea of the mouth and constipation of the brain. You just hear a lot more farting taking place from one than you do from the other. And the reason you hear it is because the mainstream media constantly covers one of them. They want to prop the other one up. So that's why there's not as much outrage, because they don't want to play you that clip over and over. They don't want to really expose good old Uncle Joe. And so that's why it's not as inflammatory. And so if the idea here is that because a crooked mainstream media doesn't cover someone's inflammatory comments in the same way, they're a better candidate, I gotta call bullshit on that. Seriously. They're equally just as bad. And I'll wrap it up with this. This is not the time, even with the protests and the riots, to be sitting here taking the tone, well, maybe Joe isn't that bad. He's slightly better than Trump, so maybe he isn't that bad. Maybe Tulsi was right. This ain't the time for that. This is the time more than ever to continue to expose the Democrats and the Republicans. Expose them both. They both contribute to the problems. Let's not forget inflammatory language. Joe Biden supported the crime bill. That crime bill on its own has targeted so many people of color in this country, resulted in them being put in prisons, keeping their communities down the totem pole, keeping them down the ladder of success. And he supported that shit. He said flat out, we'll put you in prison. And again, who was impacted the most by that? Joe Biden's a Democrat, right? So it's not just Republicans here, guys. Joe Biden is just as bad. He is part of the problem that these inner city communities face all the time. Yes, he's got their vote, but that's why now is the time to make the voice heard. Joe Biden is not your answer. He is not your savior. He is not going to save the day, and he is not going to lead you to the promised land. But guess what? Neither are the Republicans. That's why it's time you start looking at some third-party independent options. Unless we get out there and do our, duties to say break away from the two-party dictatorship, you're never going to get that change. Going out in the fourth inning, or fourth quarter rather, not inning, wrong sport, fourth quarter of the game, and backpedaling to say that Joe Biden is slightly better than Trump after all this time you've been rallying against them both, doesn't exactly send the message that there's a very much of a united front to break away from the two parties. Now again, I want to say, even though I did kind of come in here with guns loaded and really let loose, if you have figured out who this video was kind of referring to, okay, I don't mean disrespect by the video game. And I don't want anyone to go and unsubscribe. This was just simply to give my own narrative, okay, how I feel about the situation. And hopefully if that person were to view the video, maybe this will pull them back in, because I know that they've gone through a lot recently with things they've seen from some independent parties and a lot of things, and they're probably kind of sitting there right now saying, okay, where do I go from here? Because we're everywhere I turn, we're basically screwed. So I don't want to come across like a complete ass, but I want to give that narrative because, again, as I say, now is the time more than ever to focus on breaking away from the two parties, not kind of quasi glorifying one of them. And so again, no disrespect intended, but I just want to put that message out there because, again, we're not going to solve the problem if we continue to vote for him. And even though it wasn't called for to vote for Joe Biden, I don't agree with the narrative that he is this great candidate and that listening to his inflammatory language is better than listening to Donald Trump's. I prefer not listening to either one of them. And that's just my take on it.